In today's video, I will discuss aim. The main topics are going to be consistency or performance, muscle memory, Sens Randomizers, and the newly added building and editing Sens. All studies are linked down in the description if you're interested in a specific topic or want to double check. Lastly, this type of video is quite experimental. I would appreciate any type of feedback. Depending on where you live, the likelihood of you having a vitamin D deficiency goes from up to 40% down to around 20%. Whilst I'm not telling you to go and do blood tests only because you will improve in Fortnite, you should do them to find out if you indeed have any deficiency, as it will not only affect your performance in game, but also IRL. If you have been here for long enough, you know that good sleep and arm stretches are the two things I try to really drill into your memory in these type of videos. That is, because all the progress you make gets solidified in your sleep, meaning that if you Kovacs 1 hour, play 8, sleep 5, you lose a good portion of that progress. The optimal range you should aim for is between 7 to 9 hours a night. So try to expose yourself to the sun and if you can, get your blood work done. Second, stay hydrated. Hydration can have a significant impact on performance both physically and cognitively. Research has shown that even mild dehydration can negatively impact various cognitive function, including attention, memory, concentration, and psychomotor skills. So please, drink water. If you have to take a water closet break in between games, even better, as walking gets blood flowing, a thing that sitting doesn't do. And yes, VC is short for water closet. Third is exercise, and whilst I hope I don't have to explain why staying in shape will benefit your performance, I have some links down below. But summarizing, you will feel better, your body will work better, and you will perform better. What I would like to discuss though is the extent to which you should train. Whilst I love going to the gym for hours on end, that is what could be considered a maximalist approach, meaning that I try to get 100% out of my musculature and train for hypertrophy every time, even if that means training for 1.5 to 2 hours compared to training only 45 minutes and get 90% of the results. There is no excuse not to stay in shape, and as everything else, if you choose not to, you're the only one hindering yourself. The last point I would like to bring up is more practical. The Inner Game of Tennis by W. Timothy Galloway is a book that explores the psychological aspects of playing tennis. Whilst I know it's probably vain, I heavily suggest to read it. Anyway, here are some points of the book that I want to emphasize. First, Self 1 and Self 2. It introduces the concept of two selves within every player. Self 1 represents the conscious mind, which often overthinks and criticizes performance. Self 2 represents the natural abilities and instincts that can perform at a higher level, when allowed to act without interference. Second is the ability to quiet down the mind, to achieve peak performance. By reducing the self-critical thoughts and judgments of Self 1, players can tap into their natural abilities and allow Self 2 to take over. You might notice from Kovacs or FN when you're on a really good run, about to hit a new high score, but then realize it and start missing once you start trying. That is because you're overthinking it. The next concept is non-judgmental awareness. Instead of labeling shots as good or bad, players are encouraged to observe and learn from each experience without dwelling on mistakes. Rather than immediately labeling a shot as hit or miss, for example, observe the accuracy and precision of your shots objectively. Pay attention to where your shots land and how close they are to the intended targets without attaching judgment. Observe what might have caused the error, such as mouse movement, timing, targeting strategy. See things like good stop on a good flick or fell short on an under flick. This allows you to gather information about your aim without getting distracted by self-criticism. Instead of evaluating your progress solely based on scores and benchmarks, adopt a more comprehensive approach. Observe your overall improvements, small victories, and areas where you've made adjustments or learned new techniques. The next concept is to focus on the present rather than getting ahead of yourself or thinking about the next target or objective. Focus your attention on the current target you're engaging with. This helps you make more accurate and intentional shots. If you find yourself struggling with that, I would suggest using a metronome as discussed in the last video. In case you find your mind wandering around, you can use your breath as an anchor to bring your attention back on the present moment. Just take deep, intentional breaths. This helps center your attention and maintain present moment focus. And last but definitely not least, trust in the body. Players are encouraged to let go of control and trust that their body knows how to execute shots instinctively. Overthinking and micromanaging can hinder performance, and whilst we are not tennis players, you have to think of your mouse as an extension of your hand. I discussed this in a prior vid, but you want to grip your mouse as lightly as possible, for that exact reason. What is commonly referred to as muscle memory in gaming is more accurately described as cognitive adaptation. Muscles themselves obviously don't have a memory. The concept, as commonly understood, refers to the ability of muscles and motor system to execute specific movements with precision and efficiency. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and form new neural connections, plays a crucial role in learning and skill acquisition, including motor skills. Through repetitive practice, neural pathways associated with specific movements are reinforced, leading to improved performance and automaticity. This process involves the coordination between the brain, muscles, and nervous system. While the specific term muscle memory may not accurately reflect the true nature of the phenomenon, it serves as a convenient and widely understood way to describe the observed improvements in motor skills that occur with practice. What this means is that you can potentially perform on any sense if you practice enough, but obviously everyone has a different physiology that will favor a specific one, meaning that if you wanted to, you could switch sense every other day as your neural networks will eventually adapt to it, but you will still find yourself feeling better in a certain range. Then again, Fortnite has an incredible amount of scenarios you have to adapt to, and whilst some patterns might remain constant, there are subtleties that change, and it is these subtleties that can make all the difference. Whilst we are hopefully not always on autopilot, meaning that we could adapt on the fly, I still would advocate for sticking to a sense, but whilst training I would introduce a twist. The concept of sensitivity randomizers refers to the intentional introduction of randomness or variability in sensitivity settings during gameplay. The purpose is to challenge and train the player's adaptability and aim by constantly altering their aiming sensitivity. Given the lack of specific research on sensitivity randomizers in gaming, scientific stances on this topic are not well established or widely documented. However, we can draw insights from related areas of research and expertise, plus empirical reports. In motor learning and skill acquisition studies, researchers have explored the effects of variable practice versus constant practice on skill development. Variable practice involves practicing a skill under varying conditions, such as different target sizes or distances, whilst constant practice involves repetitive practice under constant conditions. Studies generally suggest that variable practice can enhance generalization and transfer of skills, as it promotes adaptability and robustness in skill execution. Applying these findings to the concept of sensitivity randomizers, it is plausible that introducing variability in sensitivity settings during training could potentially enhance adaptability and aim adjustment. By constantly challenging the player to adapt to changing sensitivities, it may improve their ability to quickly adjust their aiming technique and maintain accuracy in dynamic gameplay scenarios, which Fortnite is. This is also supported, at least anecdotally, by some players. However, this should only be used during training for obvious reasons. You can either manually switch your sense every so often, or you will need a third-party app, as only AimLabs has a built-in randomizer. But it's AimLabs. Now, the main drawback is that you could get banned, as it is a third-party app. I use it in Kovacs mainly, but didn't want to risk opening Fortnite and sitting out on FNCS. Fortnite has added building and editing sense for us mouse and keyboard players as well. Some players find it beneficial to have a higher sensitivity for building and editing, to enable faster and more fluid movements. Especially as a tarper, I found high sense a true blessing. And on the other hand, aiming requires more precise and controlled movements, particularly during mid or long range engagements like Surge. However, it is important to note that using different sensitivities can require some adjustment and practice to develop the needed mouse control and cursor placement, or muscle memory. For me, I managed to find a sense that really enabled me to aim well whilst retaining my max, making it obsolete to relearn new things. Plus, in the week I tried it, I found myself struggling a lot with my editing sense. Ultimately, the decision to use different sensitivities for different aspects of gameplay is subjective and depends on the individual preferences and playstyles. You may find that a single sensitivity works well across all aspects of the game, while others may benefit from different sensitivity settings. The only way to find out is to try. Give it enough time to eliminate bias, a week should be enough, and then evaluate. I would definitely pick this one over raw Excel though, as the separation is not given by speed, making for a thing less to take into account. I hope you learned something new in this video. If you did, I can only suggest you watch this one next, as when combined, it's only a matter of time until you become Booga.